What's up, homies? The new Amerikkalainen, completely hand forged from round stock spring steel, 25mm round stock factory spring steel. It's not reclaimed. This is my interpretation of an ideal tactical knife in the sort of theme of the Prison Planet Shank, the sci-fi kind of concept. This is no one else forges like this. I'm the only one, probably in the entire freaking world. I'm hot forging, annealing, and cold forging the entire thing to shape. This is what allows me to have such a nice, beautiful finish and this consistent shape and thinness. As you can see, I have wrapped jute twine here, but the concept here with this knife is that it's full steel. Now in the past, you've probably heard me many times say that full steel knives are lazy and half-assed work, and but I've been experimenting a lot with them. What I found is that in order for a full steel knife to work, you have to have a fat fucking pommel, and it's got to be as fat as possible at the pommel, and your taper has to go from the pommel to the tip. And as you can see here, we've got a beautiful taper all the way from the pommel to the tip, and it just gives you such an incredible balance, such a really nice feel to the knife. The sheath is also quite unique. I've added this kind of system here where you can grab with your finger instead of here. So a lot of people, they grab there, and what happens is you can cut yourself real bad. So having that little extra groove right there, something to hold on to when you pull. That's mostly a safety feature for kids, because I've seen kids, they do it all the time, they try and grab it there. You can, of course, with the flaring of the sheath, it allows you to just push anywhere on that flaring very easily, and it knocks the sheath right off. That rivet lock and the tension of the sheath kicks itself off, which is pretty cool. So, you know, if you pull the blade out of your pants or something, you can just go straight to work. It can be held upside down and whatever. That's very unique to me as well. This type of rivet lock mechanism. It's not something you see anywhere. I don't even see people copying it at all. So this one is the one I made for myself. The base model doesn't come with the sharpened clip point because of the laws in different countries, but it's something that I do kind of half and half. Some of them have, some of them don't. And then it's always, this sharpened clip point is always something that I can add on after the heat treat, after the knife has been bought. This is something, if the customer wants that, that's fine. I can add that later. The jimping, not so much. Jimping you got to do before the heat treat. This is all hand forged to shape, like I said. And then one of my favorite things about this is that it takes me back to the original kind of hot metal knife days, where everything was forged by hand, everything was forged to shape, and with very little grinding going on. So I just like that. One, because it's very unique, you don't get to see all these kind of grind lines and whatnot. You just have a very raw, authentic, it looks really high quality. It's very nice. Again, another thing that I was going to bring up is that my version of a sort of ideal EDC knife, what I've been doing is a lot of my work, a lot of the first like 2,000 or so knives or something I made, they were kitchen knives. I stayed away a little bit from fighting knives, but I realized like an EDC has to be a fighting knife. And so what I've done in my mind philosophically is I've combined kitchen knives with fighting knives, and the bond that holds them together is the EDC knife. And so you now have a knife you can make your burgers, you can do your kitchen work with, you can prep meals, you can skin and gut. But then if you need to fight and you need to kill and you need to stab, you can certainly do that, right? It's a very nice fighting knife. Very easy to transition from hand to hand. Somebody tries to grab your hand. And one thing that's very important I found with fighting knives that a lot of people like is this pistol grip. So when the knife is sheathed and it's in your waistband or something, when you pull it out, it points forwards. You pull it out and it points forwards. You have a saber grip, right? You know, the sabers, the cutlasses, these were considered to be the finest swords ever made. The epitome of sword fighting reached a point where you had these one-handed, thin, long swords with pistol grips. And that's so that you can point. So that's, I think, quite important for this design. It's also nice for chopping. It gives you room and space. It allows the weight to go forwards. And then the nice thing too is, of course, it locks itself in quite nicely. It feels like it's staying there, right? So this is the Amerikkalainen series. It's in Finnish, it's Amerikkalainen with 2 Ks, right? But I thought, let's just, it's the Finnish spelling, English pronunciation, the Amerikkalainen. I thought it was fucking hilarious. That was snooze. So the base model is just full steel. I haven't wrapped the handles. I just did that to my own. I'll probably do the lanyard on most of them. But this is pretty much all there is to it. Very unique knife. They will be sold to Lamnia, and Lamnia will be the one distributing these knives. They've been asking for a long time now for a restock on these forged rivet lock style knives. They sell immediately. The lowest price they have is 325 euros. So, if they're selling out as soon as I put them up there at that price, then, I need to get a move on and start taking advantage of that scenario and that situation. People really appreciate my knives and what I do, and so I have to, keep working at it. I've made 9 of these so far. This one is number 7. Some of them have jimping, some of them don't. When I'm forging them, I feel them in my hand. I feel like, does this one need jimping or not? Some of them don't, some of them do. So the ones that need jimping, they have it, and the ones that don't. One thing that I experimented with on my own is another hole in my mother's. Anyway, I put those little hollow circles there. Just so sick. Just so sick. Look at that taper. It's just so mean, and then it transitions to such a clean and thin edge there. So this is a real nasty piece of work, this one. And I think this theme of like this prison planet shank, this sci-fi prison planet, post-apocalyptic shank, I think it's really kind of it's really, really cool. And I've said it many, many times before, I always come back to 5160. I don't particularly like most other steels. I've been working a lot with stainless lately. And stainless is a pain in the ass to work with. It's a pain in the ass to sharpen. It's a pain in the ass to take the burrs off. 1095 is nice too, but 1095 rusts like a bitch. It's the same with ADC RV2. Incredible edge retention, but rusts like a bitch. And all the kitchen knives I made out of 5160, everything I made out of it, not a single complaint about anything. The 5160 spring steel, in my opinion, is the ultimate super steel for knife making. It is the most versatile for knife making. It's very easy to sharpen and put an edge on. You can, use a brick, as they say. And I think when it comes to, some of the stainless steel knives that I have, once they're dull, it's just a pain in the ass to sharpen. It's not the same. And then when you get a fat burr on there, on those stainless steel knives, those burrs, they hang on. So I just feel, and another thing with 5160 spring steel is, just think about the mileage it has. They make tank armor out of it. Tank armor is basically spring steel. And think, every truck on the road, every car on the road, hundreds of millions, maybe even hundreds of billions of miles of proven capability from this steel. Where every single car every single tank, every single machine in the world needs this spring steel. Every device of war is built on spring steel, and some way in one or another has 5160 spring steel on it. There's nothing more battle proven, more tested, and more successful than the 5160 spring steel. So in my opinion, I don't see why I should fuck around with other steels unless it's a design specific thing. Like the scalpels. The ideal steel for those scalpels is a high hardness stainless steel or a spring steel. The blade is so small, and the way you use it, the way you use it is such that it sort of requires it to be stainless. But a knife like this, it just got to be tough. It's got to be easy to sharpen. You got to be able to smash it, bash it. And, from my own personal experience, and, knives with anything over 59 Rockwell hardness, you're doing more harm than good. You're wasting time sharpening. It's such a pain in the ass. I mean, okay, it's different if it's a kitchen knife. But the things that make a 64 Rockwell hardness knife dull are generally the same things that make a 58 Rockwell hardness knife dull too. And what I mean by that is when you're carving into some piece of shit wood that's been laying on a grit road for, a year, the things that are running on your edge is going to be granite dust, the particles that dull knives, or that do most of the dulling on most of the performance or most of what you're doing with knives, they'll make any hardness knife dull, So really at the end of the day, what it comes down to is ease of sharpenability. And that's where a lot of the kitchen guys who use the spring steel kitchen knives, what they love and why they prefer using the 5160 spring steel kitchen knives is because, hey, it's so easy to sharpen. I'm at work all day. I don't have time to put an edge on a 65 Rockwell hardness blade. Most of these people, they don't have high quality sharpening stones. If you have a 65 Rockwell hardness, you have this super ultra steel knives. You need like $500 of fucking sharpening equipment. So, I like high hardness, high edge retention steels and stainless steels. M390 is nice, but I feel like those belong on folding knives. And folding knives, that's where these kind of super steels and these super stainless steels, in my opinion, make sense. But on a full tang knife, an EDC full tang knife that you're, not necessarily a tool, right? Not like your carpenter's buko that you use for carving and whittling and making, furniture with. That can be high hardness. You're not in a rush. You need extreme performance. You need very keen edge. You need that tool steel, that ADC RV2. It's got to be like an 8-degree edge, But for your everyday thing, your everyday carry, your beater, your machine of war, you got to pick the steel that's been proven, and something that's easy to sharpen, something that's, just great and tough and overall. Another thing to kind of consider is like how much of this knife is the actual edge? Less than 1%. This little sliver of steel here makes up probably less than 0.01% of the entire mass of the blade. So you're telling me my steel choice, what is the best steel choice for a knife, is entirely dependent on the part of the knife that makes up less than a fraction of a percent of the entire mass of the entire knife? I'm thinking about it the other way. 99.99% of this knife is not the edge. And 99.99% of this knife is what takes the beating. So in my mind, I gotta pick a steel that represents the bulk of the structure and engineering and of the entire knife. So to me, the spring steel makes the most sense. I like forging with it. It's available. It's reliable. I can cold forge it. It's never let me down. I've tested it on hundreds of times. I've beaten the crap out of it. I've never seen them break. Well, unless I temper them under like 170 or 180 degrees Celsius. Basically as brittle as possible. Then they can break. But at 200 or 210 or 220 degrees Celsius, you get more than enough edge retention. I have knives made of this steel. I've tempered them at 210, 215, 220. I sharpened them once off the machine and I've never had to sharpen them again. I've used them for years and they're still sharp. They're still usable. They're completely usable. So, your edge retention on your knife has a lot more to do with how you cut and what you're cutting into, how how you take care of the knife. Are you cutting through any random piece of rag from the shop floor that's filled with dirt and dust? Are you know what I'm saying? Like, if you're careful with what you're cutting into, edge retention is not that big a deal. And the more and more I make knives and use knives and test knives, and the more customers talk to me about their experience and what they like the most, it always comes back around to 5160 spring steel. And it makes a lot of sense. So many people don't have a lot of experience sharpening knives. Sharpening 5160 and getting an edge on it is so much easier than on M390 steel, because you can pull it off with shitty stones and shitty sharpening equipment. So again, it's not saying that those stainless super steels are bad. I'm saying that for most knives and for most use cases and for most things that most people do every day, the 5160 spring steel is the best option. And I recommend that you carry some type of small folding knife that has a stainless super steel with it. Now, I don't have mine with me, but I have the scalpel with me 100% of the time, except today. And I've been carrying a lot the Daily Carry Company gravity knife with a Tanto. I've been really, really enjoying that. And, it's nice that those folding knives don't rust. But a knife like this, I don't even notice whether it rusts or not. I'm using it all the time. I'm battering it. And then the patina that grows on top of it is so charming and beautiful. So, ultimately, I think if you really, like, in terms of the most ideal everyday carry beater knife that you can take to war and use in a kitchen and all this kind of shit, it's something like this. It's going to be something like this. You can rewrap the handle. You can go full steel. You're not changing much, You're not afraid that the scales break off. You're not afraid that the tang will break because, it's like rat tail or something. You don't have to oil anything. I mean, like, there's no moving parts. So there it is. The Amerikkalainen Series. The full steel, everyday carry. Prison Planet Shank. You're not going to find anything like it anywhere. I'm the only person, I think, in the world, at least as far as I know, who forges knives like this. And by that I mean not just the hot forging, but the cold forging. And that's how we're able to get this surface finish. That's how we're able to get this beautiful, consistent edge and such a skillful looking piece of forging. So there it is, lads. This is the Amerikkalainen. This one is number 7. This is the one I kept for myself. And it comes with a sheath like this. And they will be available at Kutelia and Lamnia pretty soon. Thank you for watching.